All right, so we've finished the site, okay, which is highlighted here in green. What we should do now is to build the sites of the neighbours, okay, on either side of our site. Now, when we are considering the neighbouring information, we really only have very limited information to work with. When you request a survey from a surveyor, generally they will survey the building quite detailedly, including things such as the ridge levels of the existing building, gutter levels, where electrical boxes are located, your boundary lines, your boundary lengths, your spot levels, where the trees are located, and so forth. But they won't be building the entire neighbours in the same sort of detail. What you will have of the neighbouring buildings may be some limited information, such as what is the sill heights and the head heights for the windows that face onto your site. What are the gutter levels and perhaps the ridge levels of the roof that is nearest to the boundary of your site. But beyond that, you may not have a lot of accurate information, such as spot levels of the site that your neighbouring buildings are built on. So we really need to use the survey's information with what limited information we have about the neighbours and other tools such as Google Earth. Okay, Google Earth really is a very handy tool to give us aerial views or plan perspective views of our site, which then can be seen in the context of the neighbouring buildings. Okay, so what you can do is go to the exercise files that we have at school and collect the photo that's called 02 aerial photo 2, okay, which will be on the P drive. If we just open this photo up, we can immediately see that this is our site, and our two neighbouring buildings, on this one on the Catherine Street side is one of our neighbours, and this one here is another neighbour. Okay, and we notice that their roof is quite a complicated roof on both the neighbours, which we will be attempting to build. And because we don't actually have a survey that gives us the ridge levels of these two roofs, we will be making some estimates based on the photos that you will have taken at site. But typically the survey will at least give you some information about the ridge levels of the roof at this sort of area, and also the ridge level of the roofs in this sort of area. But it won't give you the whole building, just probably just the area of the roof that is closest to your site. Okay, so what we need to do is bring this information into ArchiCAD. So if I just close that file, the quickest way to bring things into ArchiCAD is to drag and drop. Okay, so if you open up the folder and then you go into ArchiCAD, just press escape to make sure nothing's actually selected, and you just drag a copy of this aerial photo into the grid space. Okay, so notice what I did. I went and selected the aerial photo, held whilst it's hovered over the aerial photo file name, hold down the left mouse button and move your mouse into the grid space whilst the left mouse button is still held down, and then let go. Okay, so this will bring in the image into your file. Okay, let's just delete that second one that I brought in just to demonstrate or repeat the exercise. Okay, so now we've got some site information that's in our ArchiCAD file. The first thing we need to be aware of is that when you bring in this site information from Google, that it isn't actually a plan view. Okay, it is better termed a plan perspective view. because what you can see is sides of the buildings when, if it were a true plan, you wouldn't be able to see the sides of these buildings. Okay, so we're on a slight angle. So we need to keep that in mind when thinking about the context of the site and even the scale of the site. Okay, but this is great information that we can use, particularly if we haven't yet been to site. Okay. The next thing that we need to consider is that, is this picture even even true to scale? Okay, and the answer is no. But we should make every attempt to get it to a certain scale that at least is as close as we can manage to this site. Okay, so this site is this area here. Okay, so the first thing that we should do is probably scale this image. Okay, so what I'd like to do, because this end is obscured by some trees, I'm going to take this measurement here as my, what you could call like the control measurement, because then I'm going to determine what this length is and determine what this length is and see how I can match them together. Okay. To determine this length though, and make sure that it is absolutely straight with this edge from here to here, I should probably first rotate this image so that it is in the same orientation as this mesh. Okay, so on this, every image of course is going to be different, but on this image I'm going to look for a straight edge so that I can tilt this or rotate the image so that it is perfectly parallel to the grid. Well, it won't be perfectly parallel to the grid, but at least parallel to the grid, which is closer to what it is now, closer than what it is now. So I'm looking for a straight edge, and this would appear to be a nice straight edge, and so with this. Okay, so to rotate the image, the shortcut key is Control E. So what I need to do is select the image like I have now, and it's highlighted in green, then press Control E and then draw an imaginary line with my mouse along the straight edge that I've nominated. Okay, so I'm going to go from here to say here, and then I'm going to begin to rotate. So I've clicked from the start of the line to the end of the line using my left mouse button, and then I'm going to rotate it, and when I get close to 90 degrees straight up the page, I hold the Shift key so that it is constrained to parallel to the grid, and then I press my left mouse button again. Okay, so that looks pretty straight, but what I'll do is I'll just check the straightness of this image with this edge here, okay, which is another nominated straight edge. So I'll go Control E, and then I will zoom in a little bit and go click and click. So it looks like it's a little bit off, so I really need to make a decision about which edge I'm going to follow, and I think I'm going to follow this roof edge. Okay, so that looks fairly parallel to the grid to me. Okay, so now that I've put it parallel to the grid, it makes it easier to compare the sizings of these two. Okay, so when I say these two, I'm meaning the site here and this area here. Okay, so what I should do next is really calculate or measure the distance between here along a straight line to here. Okay, so I'm going to press my M key on my mouse, my keyboard, which stands for measure. Okay, and then I'm going to begin to measure from here, I'm going to measure to about there. Okay, given that the Google image is plan perspective. Okay, so the base, it should be the base of the building to the base of the building, but I don't know where the base of the building is for this one. Okay, so it's probably about there. So that distance is 20,036. Okay, so I might actually, for the purposes of this exercise, just consider that it's going to be 20,000. Okay, because 20,000 is really very close. All right, so that means this distance from here, if I measure from, press the M key, and I measure from here to here, should be 20,000. Okay, hold the shift key. And that really is quite close. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so the most accurate way then, I'm just going to move this out of the way, is to consider that this, the true scale according to our survey from this point, from this point, I'll measure from this point to this point, is 20,159. Okay, so just ignoring what I said before about making this rounded to 20,000, this from this distance to this distance should in fact be 20,159. So to scale this, so what I'm trying to achieve is that distance from here all the way along to here is 2159. So that means this should be, this line here should be at least 2159. Okay, it's not a hard and fast rule, but once we then overlay these two on top of each other, we'll be able to see whether there's any sort of adjustments we need to make. Okay, so to scale this image to suit the correct scaling per the survey and what we've drafted, you select the image and press the shortcut key for reshape, resize, which is Control K, and then press OK. Then take the same line that imaginary line that I just drawn, and click from here to say where the base of the building is estimated, say here. Okay, and then so I've clicked the beginning of the line with my left mouse button to the end of the line with my left mouse button. Then I press tab and make it 2159. Okay, notice how it slightly enlarges the image, because technically it should enlarge it so that if we were to Control D and drag this to say here, it should roughly be the right size. Okay, we need to do a little bit of adjusting the image. Okay, but I'm going to nudge this image over a little bit from here to say here. Okay, just so you can see that line is cleanly there, and that line is roughly where the base of the building would be because there isn't too much of an overhang. And then we consider, well, where is the street on this side and where is the, it's a bit difficult because it's obscured by these two trees. So we'll just look at this side. So that's the end of the site there. But then there is that footpath that's there and then the street. So what we'll do is we'll just marry the two together by clicking at this point on the image. Oh, sorry, don't click, but press, it's already selected, press Control D, and then at this point click on the image and then just move it out to where the end of the site is. Okay, so I mean, look, that looks roughly right, but we may have to do a little bit of tweaking again in a moment. Okay, so what we've effectively done is rescaled this image based on a defined measurement that we've defined off the survey's drawing, which was from here to here, which we determined using the M measure tool, or the M key on the keyboard as the shortcut, and then measured from here to here, which was 2159 millimeters, and then scaled this image to match, then dragged this image into place, and then tweaked it to get to the correct boundary lines. Okay, so in the next video what we'll do is consider what to do about the mesh on these two sides and creating a mesh to house the buildings on either side of your site.